Hello, this is Vicki LaRoe. Thank you for clicking on this video. Today we are going to be doing our Precious Eyes bracelet tutorial. And at the time of filming, this is available as a kit on our website. However, it is being discontinued. And so I wanted to make sure to do a tutorial video for it. And there's only like a handful of them left. I'll leave a link below if they're still available. And if they're not, I still want to be able to show this tutorial. You can use really similar materials. They're fairly common enough so that you can make a similar look. And of course, all of our kits include complete handouts, and then this tutorial will be available. I normally don't do like full tutorials on the channel unless it's going to be a little smaller project. A lot of our necklaces are 3 or 4 hour classes, but if I could do it fairly quick, I'm happy to show them. So this is our little precious eye bracelet, right? It looks kind of like an eye bead with the shape of the components. And then I used a gemstone. I used a ruby here, an amethyst here. And you don't have to use, a gemstone. But if you do, it does have to be a large enough hole for the leather to go through. And again, I've used leather cord. You don't have to use leather. You could use cotton, satin, hemp, vegan leather, something, any kind of cording will work. And you could use a glass bead or something there. It just needs to have a large enough hole. I like the idea of doing a precious gemstone, and these are not like super high quality gems. They are completely natural, but they're not lab created. But like this is a pretty opaque ruby, so she's not the highest quality stone in the bunch. And this amethyst has its little inclusions and things, so we know it's natural and not lab created. But it needs a bigger hole is really the most important thing, and that it's about 6 millimeters wide is the right length for what we are doing. Now in our kit, you don't have to choose between the stones. It includes both, so you can decide once you get it. And then with the other stone, I'm going to dangle it off the clasp today in our sample, which I think will be pretty cute. And again, I used a cording. I used 1 millimeter cord. I have a metallic silver leather, and then the black. You don't have to do that. You could use a different accent color. I have this like metallic pink or pearl white. Those would be really cute. But that accent cord needs to be the one that's definitely 1 millimeter, so a little bit thinner. So this is the only one the beads are going to go on. The other 2 cords of mine, the black ones, are technically 1.5 millimeters, so they're a little bit thicker. You could use, all 1 millimeter, doesn't matter. But since there's no beads going on the black one, it's fine for them to be a little bit thicker, and it gives a little more like substance and heft to the bracelet itself, I think. So. And I really love this style. I think it's very like unisex. It's very kind of hip and cool. And I was also just thinking it would have made a really cool necklace. You just need longer cord, that's all. But because really I think it's really, really cute. Okie doke. So first thing we would do, I've already done it here, is to cut the tips of our cord at a slant so there's no issue getting the beads on. I'm going to use the amethyst on this one and bring it right to the center. These are 15-inch pieces, if I didn't mention that. And after the bead is on, I'm going to do a little cap and a little 3 millimeter round. And again, the issue is generally finding hole size that's large enough to go on here. And once I have all those, I'm going to bring them, putting my ends together to make sure this is centered. Okay, and there's our little beads. And the 2 components I've used, and if you're, you can use, pretty much any shape component. It just needs the 2 holes. And so I'm stacking this little marquee and then this little dog tag, because I think the juxtaposition in the size, the shapes, the different textures, I think it's all really cute. So I'm going to stick the two ends of cord through these two ends. Bring that to the middle, and then I'm going to string on the bottom one. And if it's snug, because some of these holes can be small, you want to make sure just to pull real careful, because a lot of times with the dyed cords, the dye is only on the top, of course. So if it's too snug and you're pulling too fast, you can strip the color off. We don't want to do that. So I'm trying to make sure that this top component is centered, right? Because it's almost kind of floating on that on the bottom one, and so I don't want it pulled too far one way or another. There we go. Now you can see where there's spacing and the gaps, or I mean gaps in the beads and caps. That's okay. We're gonna fix that in just a sec. Okay, so that's kind of stacked like that. Very cute. And our black cord. And I'm gonna do one at a time and put the black cord under one corner here and bring the two ends together so it's centered. We're going to make sure this goes under that bead so it's there, and then I'll do the other side. And this is going to look and feel like a lot of cord, a lot of like tails and things going on, and it is, but that's okay. Bring these two ends together. Okay. And move the beads so this is under that end, right? Just like that. And these got uneven. You'll check it before you tie it, but basically so we fit like that, right? And now all the beads are together because the black cord kind of takes up that slack when it's under the ends that way. And it's important to keep watching that you're not pulling that top component one way or another, right? So to keep that kind of centered. Okay, so now we're looking to making sure all this is centered and good. And I'm holding it with that silver cord in the middle. And I'm going to take all three cords and make a knot. It's just an overhand knot, but it's important I'm keeping that silver cord in the middle as much as I can, or center of them. And then I'm going to scoot the knot up to the component before I would tighten it. And again, we want to make sure, as much as we can, that the silver one is in the middle of the two black. Here. Like that. And I'm going to keep that kind of loose for now until I get the other side. So now I'm going to, because all the beads kind of moved around, now I'm going to check the measurements of the black cord again to make sure that's even. My tails are even. Beads are pulled out, my components fairly even, and I'm going to hold all three cords together and make an overhand knot. Everybody in. There we go. And scoot this up to the component before I would tighten it. And I want to keep it about the same distance as the other side, and keep the silver cord in the middle. That is a nice thing about leather, is it's very malleable, right? So it really stays wherever you put it, nicely, and yet it's still really easy to unknot this if I needed to redo it. I didn't like the way it looked, or didn't fall, nicely, whatever. In fact, I'm going to loosen this up a little bit and scoot it just a bit closer so that these knots are the same size. Okay. just loosening this up. Okay, good. Now, there we go. And I'm just checking, make sure that, again, my silver cord is kind of fallen in the middle. And, you know, for the most part, my little loops, leather loops on both sides are fairly even, like in size and shape and what have you. Okay, lovely. Now, we're going to make another knot about 2 inches away from that one. So I'll go about 2 inches here and do the very same thing. You could trim them all the same length, probably make it a little bit easier. Now I want to leave it fairly loose for now. And then we do the same thing on the other side. Just, I want to keep it loose so that I'm able to move them around if I need to. Okay. Measure again. Okay, so now kind of trying to make sure these are about the same length away. You know, these sections are the same length, more or less, to be perfect. And that the silver cord is fallen in the middle of this section. And that you like the way the knot is looking. Because, right, there's a front and a back to this piece. And so this is going to be the knot that's on top, that lays, you know, on top. So you want to make sure that's laying nicely how you like it. And again, don't worry if it's a little stiff or like literally the first time you would wear it, right, it would start to shape to your wrist or your neck, wherever you know, however you're wearing it, and then it will hold that shape. Okay, so lovely. Okay, once like these are even, you're happy with how, you know, the placement and how everything's laying and then how the knots look, then you can pull them tight, like tight, and now make sure they're really, especially because it's so much cord, you know, it's so much cord in that knot. Okay, now we're going to finish them off. You're going to take the silver, oh, actually, let me back this out of here. Just kidding. We need to make a loop here. I forgot. So I'm going to loosen this up. And I'm going to pull that silver out, and then I'm going to put it back down, that knot. And then I'm going to tighten it. Okay. So once I've got a little loop, then I can tighten that the black ones, the black cords that made that knot. There we go. Sorry, I'm doing the other side. This would normally be where I'd like stop and start the video over, but that won't be happening. I'm not editing, maybe one day, but things happen, mistakes happen to everybody, no matter how long we've been doing stuff. So you know, when I teach in-person classes and you made you know, mistake, something broke or made a mistake, everyone would go, oh, thank God it happens to you. Okay, so all I did is pull the silver out of there, and it was still going through the knot, but I put it back down and created a loop here, back down through the black knot, and then tightened the 2 black ones so that I have that little knot, or that, I'm sorry, that little loop of silver leather. I'm going to pull that tight. Okay. Good. Good, 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 good. Okay. Now we're going to finish it off. You're going to take the silver cord and wrap it around twice under that knot. Then turn it over to what's like the back of your bracelet, and then go up these 2 wraps. So there's 1, oops, 2. Of course, we'll do it on the other side. Get everything even. Make sure everything's laying nicely together. Once, twice, turn over, take in the tail. I'm going to loosen that piece of silver. There we go. And the tail goes up. 1, up again. There we go. Tighten that. Again, silver, I mean, the leather just, you know, it loves to stick to itself, and so we're just always taking time to get this all, you know, pulled tight. Lovely. Okay, doke. Now, okay, now we're going to cut these tails off, but the first thing is to seal them up. So I never use a glue, but I'm going to use a little clear polish just right where that tail of the silver is, kind of around the knots and stuff. Just a little dab. Then I'm going to cut these tails. And again, never glue. We're not trying to glue anything together. We're just trying to seal something, right? So I'm doing another little dab. And especially clear polish on leather, perfect. It's just a great sealant. Very secure. Okay. Now we just have to add our clasp. That will dry while we're doing our thing. So we have loops, our little loops of leather, clasp. These, I think let's do the ends though first. So I'm going to cut these tails and leaving like a little fringe. So here's what we're doing. Right, I'm doing this cute little fringe. So, and you can always cut them shorter. So go on the kind of, you know, longer side. And I like them at different lengths, personally. Like I said, you can always cut it down. And I mean, it doesn't have to be even. I think that's actually pretty good. Okay. Then we're going to use these little culottes on the end. These are normally used to go on a knot on the end of necklace or bracelet, right? There's a little loop. You can see the little loop there. And these are a little cup. You can kind of see the little cup thing there. It sits like this. So generally, if I had a knot on the end of something, you could place a knot in there and then close the cup around it, and then that way you have a loop on the end to put a clasp on or hook it to whatever, right? Now, I use a bead tip when I need to do that kind of thing because it's more secure. Excuse me. But I do use these for a lot of other things. So first thing I'm going to do is cut this little loop off because I don't need it. And if you do this, make sure to use a very heavy-duty cutter. Don't use your good wire cutter or cord cutter or something because you're cutting through, well, if you're using my collage, you're cutting through stainless steel. Okay. You're going to place the open collat in the top of a crimping plier, right? Like that. And all you're going to do is put this on the end. I'm going to turn this around. Whoops. And find the end. And there it is. Look how cute. It's purely aesthetics, right? Because there's no, like if you didn't put it on the end, it wouldn't matter. Like leather cord doesn't fray or anything. But if you used a satin or something, it might. And then you could shape it a little bit if you need to. You know, if you accidentally squeezed it too hard or it closed unevenly or something like that. But it makes a very cute, more professional finish, I think, to the ending, to the end of them. Then we can add our clasp. And then I'm going to add a little dangle to the end. Now, depending on what length you need, and I'm using a swivel lobster claw. Most don't have this where the loop turns, the swivel. It is more expensive for sure, but it's definitely worth it if you have, a necklace or bracelet where it keeps turning on you, right? That's because your clasp does not, turn as your body turns all day. Having a swivel on there is very nice. It means that your jewelry will not turn as you turn during the day. So I'm just using jump rings, but you don't have to. We could have, in this one, I hooked the clasp directly onto that the silver leather cord, right, before I wrapped it. And then the other side, it's just hooking into the leather loop. So if it was too short, that's one way you could just get rid of these jump rings. I personally think the jump rings add a nicer finish to it, but if you don't want to use them for whatever reason, you surely don't have to. So that's almost it. So like I mentioned before, with the other gemstone, if you want to, you could do a little dangle. There's a little ball head pin. I could do a little something. I put this on the head pin earlier, and I added a little spacer, a little bit round on top. Very cute. So that's your spare gemstone that comes on this kit, and I'm gonna add it on not the hook end, but the other side. And you could do a wrap loop if you wanted to on that instead of a basic loop because of the jump ring opens, And then you've got a cute dangle off the back. Oh, that's so cute. So I think it's a great look. I think it's a nicer, little fancier way to do a leather bracelet or necklace. And like I was saying before, this one that we just made, so the cord's a little you know, not laying as together as like this one is that I wear all the time, right? So as soon as you know, wear it, leather loves to mold directly to, you know, who's ever wearing it, and then it will start to stay, you know, in shape. But I think that's super cute. So that came out just darling. So I have links below if they're still available, but otherwise, these are, you know, fairly simple components to be able to find and make something similar. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time on Modern Jewelry Makers. And until then, sparkle brightly like the star that you are. Mwah! Peace.